Can I ask everyone to be on mute, please, to start? Thank you very much.
Muted.
So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Rotarians, guests, and visiting Rotarians, welcome to the 24th Rotary meeting of the Rotary year 2020-2021. First and foremost, I wish everyone a happy new year, happiness, health, and of course, even more service above self for this year 2021. So here's some housekeeping rules for our Zoom meeting. So all participants will be muted during the presentation and talks. You can use a chat function to communicate with other members. Please use it wisely. And we will inform all when it's time for Q&A. You can use a function raise your hand, and then you will be invited to speak. Please also remember to register your full name, not a nickname, so we can record your attendance. And you can also switch on your camera all the time, so also for the purpose of attendance. Also note that this session will be recorded for the record keeping and promotion on social media. On this note, President Dinesh, I hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It's my pleasure now to call the meeting to order. Honorary members, Bhagwan, Pak Mohan, Shifan, past presidents, visiting Rotarians, charming spouses, all the new prospects, many of them you are here, fellow Rotarians, very good evening. And I'm very excited to welcome you all to our first meeting of the new year 2021. And I wish you all wonderful new year, safe, peaceful, prosperous, creative, joyful, and let us be all kind to serve the people who need us. Very special welcome to visiting Rotarians, President Lina of RC Shanghai International, and I've not seen yet, but if you're there, President William Leong from RC Marleong. Our speaker today is Mr. James Dauman, Managing Director, RJ Flemming Company, Southeast Asia, and co-founder of Nepal Initiative. Thank you, James, for being with us and accepting our invitation to speak. Thank you. Without a further ado, may I ask now our very new Rotarian, Allard, to raise the toast to Rotary Club of Shanghai International, coupled with Rotary International. Rotary Allard, please.
Thank you very much, President Dinesh. It's my great pleasure today to raise a toast to first wishing everyone a prosperous, successful, and a healthy 2021. And of course, to the commitment to all my fellow Rotarians to provide the services for those who need it the most. Secondly, to the Rotary Club of Shanghai and President Lina Wong, who will say a few words hereafter. So this is to the Rotary Club of Shanghai as well as Rotary International. Cheers.
To Rotary International.
Rotary International.
Rotary International.
Thank you, Rotary Allard. Thank you very much. Now, may I call upon President Lina Wong to say a few words about her club.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. It's my huge pleasure and honor to be here with you all in the first week of the new year 2021. And I'm totally flattered by the invitation that's sent to me from PP Mark. Thank you so much. And I would like to tell you a little bit more about myself and my club. That my club is called the Rotary Club of Shanghai International. It's a bilingual club, and our members are from all over the world, including Mexico, Germany, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and also Estonia, and some from Southeast Asia, like Malaysia. So we normally will have meetings online once every month, and also in person once every month. So we would like to connect the world as much as possible because we have a lot of Rotarians around the world. We would like to build a good networking together. And we also want to keep a strong relationship with the local Rotary Club in China. So we do the one time in person and one time online. And with this opportunity, I would like to see if we can have a more connection in the future for doing good cause to the world and to our own community. And also I'm the International Service Chair for the Rotary China. So anything that you would like to know about China, Rotary clubs, or we have any information, I will try my best to share with all of you. And once again, thank you for having me tonight, and Happy New Year to all of you. A very happy and successful 2021 to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Lina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll now share my slides. Honorary Secretary's announcement. Our Honorary Secretary is in the plane. She is arriving tomorrow morning from Hamburg. So I'll make the announcement on her behalf. So we'll have the community service meeting on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Please attend. And the second is for the Jolly Walk will resume and continue this Sunday. It was postponed due to the weather conditions last week. It will be at Chestnut Nature Park at 8 a.m., followed by a breakfast fellowship at President's Home in group of 8 at one time.
Then when you swipe back, it'll just automatically say the whole.
Please. So I think these walks are becoming very popular. We are able to explore new parks in Singapore, and there are many, and there are a lot of surprises. So please join the walk on Sunday. Birthdays, we have many celebrants this week. And first is today, Roland Josie. You are there, I saw you. Very, very, please join me to wish him very happy birthday today.
Happy birthday, Roland.
Happy birthday, Roland.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And
Thank you.
then let us wish very happy and joyful birthday to Dr. Dawn, Dr. Ho Sik Tien, past President Peter Tan. I have not seen you. Suresh Hathiramani, Ashish Khaneja, Rotarians Sudhir Tiku, and Elizabeth Chi. Let's wish them very, very happy and joyful New Year. Wedding anniversary celebrants, Dr. Don Chen and Vi Yuan. 7th of January. Okay, that's tomorrow. Very happy wedding anniversary, Dr. Don. I know you're not here. Next, I'm very pleased to inform you that we have induction of 2 new members today. Inducting new member is always a pleasure, and we are having new members coming in regularly. And today we have several prospective members attending our meeting. And these 2 new members are Toshio Omiyama and Ong Ting Yong. I'm sure that you have seen them in our past meetings. They have been very regular attending our meetings. So we are going to induct them today. VP Suresh Kirti will be introducing them in a while. And then I have to stop sharing. Please bear with me for a second. Fellow Rotarians, it is my privilege and pleasure today to welcome into our membership Mr. Toshio Omiyama and Mr. Ong Ting Yong. The proposals have been reviewed in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws of the club. I now ask Vice President Suresh Kirti to introduce them. VP Suresh, please.
Thank you, President. I'm happy to present these two candidates. The first one would be Ong Ting Yong. He's a Singaporean and probably the youngest member in our club, below 30 years. He's a financial advisor and financial services consulting company called Advisor Alliance Limited. He is very active in NUS social activities. His classification is financial services retirement planning. Then I would like to introduce Toshio Omiyama. He's a Japanese. He's an ex-Rotarian transferred from the Rotary Club of Tokyo, Moriyaka. He works with the Japanese Eastern Railways, basically in the hospitality, retail and real estate in Singapore as a CEO. The group has over 50 hotels and F&B outlets in Japan, and they develop also malls. They are in Singapore today because they have the concession for the SMRT and TUC to develop the retail outlets along 25 stations on the Thomson and East Coast lines. His classification is hospitality, real estate, and development. I present to you both the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Suresh. The proposers of the two candidates are our Rotarian James Lee for Ong Ting Yong and Suresh Kirti for Toshio Omiyama. Toshi and Ting Yong, as you would like to be known in the club, we now proceed to admit you in the membership in the Rotary Club of Singapore. You have been chosen for membership in this club because your fellow members believe in you to be a leader in your field and have qualities which will allow you to carry out the work of a Rotarian. In electing you to membership, we are doing more than taking you into our fellowship. We are making you a trustee with us of Rotary's ideal. Knowing you to be a Rotarian, the world will henceforth judge Rotary by your conduct. Membership in Rotary is an honor and privilege, and every privilege has its corresponding obligations. You have agreed to accept the responsibilities attached to your membership in this club and to obey this club's constitution and bylaws. One of the special obligations of the membership is regular attendance at the weekly meetings and the monthly service committee meetings and participation in club projects and activities. It is the primary method of fulfilling the principles of service and fellowship, and also way by which you represent your vocation. Toshi and Ting Yong, the ideal of Rotary is service. Our principal motto is service above self, and the object of this club and all Rotary clubs is to encourage and foster this ideal as a basis of worthy enterprise. You are to share in this effort. For the rest of this Rotary year, I would be pleased if you would serve on the for Toshi Vocational Service Committee, and your mentor is your proposer, Rotarian and VP Suresh Kirti. Ting Yong, I would recommend that you serve Youth Service Committee, and your mentor is none other than your proposer, Rotarian James Lee. Your mentors will guide your assimilation through the service committee. You can choose to be the member of more than one service committees. Toshi, your classification is hospitality and real estate development. Ting Yong, your classification is financial services, retirement planning. As you represent a classification, it is your duty to tell us about your vocation and to bring the ideals of Rotary to your business and profession. And now, by the power vested in me as a president of Rotary Club of Singapore, I declare you to be an active member of this Rotary Club. I'll present you with a Rotary emblem and a packet of Rotary literature soon in a physical meeting together with other new members. I especially commend to your attention the object of Rotary and four-way test, which form the criteria for Rotarians in their daily lives. I also suggest that as you travel, you avail yourself to the extraordinary opportunity you will have to attend Rotary meetings and meet Rotarians throughout the world. This is another very rewarding benefit of your membership. Fellow Rotarians, I am happy to present to you Rotarian Toshi and Ting Yong, our newest members. Please unmute yourself and let us applaud to welcome Toshi and Ting Yong to the oldest Rotary Club in District 3310, the Rotary Club of Singapore.
Welcome, Toshi, and
Congratulations, Toshi.
congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Ting Yong, welcome, Toshi.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So welcome to Rotary. We look forward to the enrichment of our lives as well as that of your own by your association in this, the world's oldest, largest, and finest service organization. I would now like to invite Rotarian Toshi and Ting Yong to briefly address the club. First, Toshi, please.
Thank you, President. Good evening, President, past presidents, secretary, fellow members, and all. Thank you for the acceptance to join Rotary Club of Singapore. As mentioned by Suresh earlier, but let me talk about my background briefly. So my professional journey started with East Japan Railway, which operates high-speed trains and commute trains, as well as a wide range of non-rail businesses or non-fare businesses. And I mostly engaged in hotel management and development, including Tokyo Station Hotel, which is one of the most historical and luxurious hotels in Japan. In Singapore, we are now developing commercial spaces in stations along the Thomson East Coast Line in partnership with SMRT and FairPrice. And also very recently, we established a joint venture with Yakun Kaya Toast to expand F&B businesses in Asian district. And when it comes to my personal life, my wife unfortunately went back to Japan 2 weeks ago. However, I do hope she will be back to Singapore in late January, and she is very looking forward to seeing you very soon. And my hobbies included ski racing. I was on the ski racing team in university, and I did skiing 100 days every year in school. And in terms of Rotary experience, my Rotary experience started in 2012, and when I was dispatched to the devastated area, which was hard hit by tsunami in 2011, and I also recently noticed that some of you visited that devastated place and purchased music instrument and donated them to the victims. I would like to thank you, all of you, on behalf of my friends and victims in Japan. Once again, I'm very honored to be a part of Rotary Club of Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to have you with us. Now I'll call upon Rotarian Ting Yong, please.
Good evening, fellow Rotarians. I'm Ting Yong. I'm 28 years old this year. So I just graduated from NUS last year with a double major in Econs and Stats. So I'm currently a financial services consultant with Advisors Alliance Group. So we are part of AIA. So with 3 years of experience, I mainly specialize in life insurance, in retirement planning and estate planning. So I was first exposed to this business when my dad had a stroke a few years back. And I really witnessed how sound financial planning could really potentially change your family's lifestyle. So ever since then, I took it as a calling to ensure that what happened to me will not happen to the people around me that I love again. So my day-to-day work actually includes risk analysis of my client's profile and using the different tools like insurance, investment-related solutions as an instrument to meet their unique needs and concerns. So my hobbies include mostly physical activities like working out in the gym, running, swimming, pretty much any outdoor sports. I also like playing the classical guitar and reading my free time. So I got curious about Rotary Club after James shared with me a few times about the work that he does frequently in Rotary. And I was exceptionally touched during one of the sessions. I think one of the speakers was sharing about the different projects that you are engaged in a few weeks back. So that session really widened my perspective towards the kind of impact that we can bring to the world that we live in as fellow citizens. So it reminded me of this quote that I came across a few years back by our late minister mentor, Lee Kuan Yew. So he said that to be successful in a profession or in business, to become wealthy, cannot be compared to making the lives of our fellow men better. This can bring immense satisfaction. So I started thinking a lot about how I can actually contribute back to society and really learn from all of you, your life lessons, right? From which I did from Mr. Suresh and Mr. Tapan. They really gave me a lot of perspectives and insights. I had a very interesting conversations with them. So I'm looking forward to how I can contribute back and be of value and serve the people in need. So as somebody very new and young, I think I'm one of the youngest here. I really find the weekly sharing sessions very insightful by the different speakers. It was very interesting. Really exposed me to topics which I would otherwise not really look into. So I'm really excited to learn from all of you in the years to come. So I wish all of us stay healthy and happy always, and better 2021. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian Kim Yong, our youngest member. Pleasure to have you with us. Thank you. Now I have to share my screen once again. So we give you two new Rotarians, Rotarian Toshio and Rotarian Ongteng. Now, the next is all about new Rotarians. And as you know, we have been inducting new members right from, I think, month of August. And I have been promising them that we'll hand over a Rotary membership kit sometimes later. And the later came recently. And sorry, this, okay, the sequence has changed and I come to this. So we had a meeting of all the Rotarians in the first batch, 9 of them, and at our Rotary office, and we handed over the Rotary kit along with Who's Who directory. As a new directory, we have it now. And we also gave a Rotary calendar, and our director, ISC, handed over the book of humor to them. And it was a really very nice physical meeting at our Rotary office. And the next are here. You all know them now, and I'm not going to spend time to introduce them once again. They are very, very active, already very active with us. And it was really a pleasure having them physically meeting them at the Rotary office. And I really want to once again thank and give my gratitude to our honorary member, Pak Mohan, for giving, allowing us the facilities to host this meeting. Thank you, sir. All right, and now we go back to PP Mark. PP Mark is in China, and I think he has become our ambassador to the Rotary world in China. And here he is exchanging banner with President Jess Chen of RC Suzhou Mandarin. And you have seen he invited 2 of the presidents today. Thank you, PP Mark. Now, the Rotary Club had the first meeting on 23rd February 1905. And that is celebrated as, the birthday is celebrated as World Understanding and Peace Day. Somewhere I've seen we call it World Peace and Understanding Day, and also International Day. But this is celebrated on 23rd of February, will be celebrated on 23rd February 2021. We did not have this last year. There were a lot of arrangements were done, but the last moment was canceled due to COVID restrictions. Now we know there is COVID, restrictions are still there, but we can plan. Please. So we will be having this on 23rd February 2021, and it will be a club meeting, and the day is not Wednesday, it is Tuesday. Please block your calendar. It will be on Wednesday. Now we are working on a new idea how we get all the clubs in Singapore involved in this. And I'm very pleased to inform you that this will be our first physical meeting. How we are going to do it? We are not allowed to have a large gathering, and this can be only a business meeting. So we will have our club meeting on 23rd February 2021 in Conrad Centennial. The number will be limited to 50. And we will make the reservation on first come, first serve basis, but no worries, everybody can attend. The other members can come on Zoom. Similarly, all other clubs will also have their club meeting adjusted to Tuesday at the same time at different locations, and all will be connected by Zoom, but Rotary Club Singapore will be hosting it. So all the function and the proceeds will be at our meeting, and this will be zoomed out to all other clubs, and they will also introduce themselves. So this is going to be very collective event, and we already have a committee working on it from 5 different clubs, and I have been talking to them, and probably in the next meeting I'll be giving you more details. And I'm sure this will be, we will also have a guest of honor. We are working on it. And I think that this way we'll have a very large attendance. I'm sure it will exceed 200 or 300 Rotarians in Singapore. So that was about World Understanding and Peace Day. Now, Kaifa, know your fellow Rotarians. We have been having this slot for almost from the beginning. And today we have Rotarian Klaus Usmond, and he's going to speak about himself. Klaus, he joined our club on, let me see. Okay, next meeting on 14th January 2015. So I'm very pleased to give you Rotarian Dr. Klaus. Dr. Klaus, please.
Good evening, President Dinesh.
Yes,
thank you very much. I'm happy to introduce myself, and I'm very happy to be a member of our Rotarian Club. Shall I switch my screen to my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, please.
One second. Share screen. So this is my youth. I'm born in Germany, but in a very small state in the southwest. It's called Saarland. We were several times after First World War and after Second World War split off from Germany, but later always get reunified. And this is me as a small boy, and this is me with my brother Bernd playing with the sand and a local church. And this scenic river is the River Saar. Our state is named after this river. And our state is famous for steel and coal mining. Nowadays, all coal mines are closed because there was a big economic crisis in the 1980s. But we recovered quite well. And this church is in our capital, Saarbrücken. And this lake is in a neighborhood 3 kilometers from my mom's house. And on the bottom, you see the ruins of an old Roman village. So about 1,900 years ago, the Romans settled in nearby my house, about 15 kilometers. And it was very nicely developed. They had already bottom heater, floor heating systems. And now I like a little bit to tell about my school and education. And so this old house, this is the school in our village where I went to for elementary school. And then for secondary school, I went to a neighbor city where I finished with an A level. And because I loved science and chemistry so much at home, we always did experiments and did bombs and tear gas, whatever we made at home. My parents were not always very happy, but it was great fun. And when I studied chemistry at the university, the Saarlandes, so in the capital of our state, and I finished with my master degree and added on my PhD in physical chemistry. And I had a few hobbies, like all the boys. I like swimming and cycling. My brother and me, we were building a remote control sailing ship, motor ship. So we played on the lake. And the university at the bottom is our university, our local university, where I studied. And when I was a bit like 18, 19, was very interested in politics. So I joined the youth organization of the CDU, one of the major parties. Angela Merkel is from that party. And also, this was quite interesting, the Pan-European Union. This is an organization founded by Konrad Adenauer and Aristide Briand, and it likes to organize and unify Europe in peace. And it's a bit conservative organization, but we have a lot of great events. And one of the big events I didn't join was at the Austrian-Hungarian border, where 1989 we opened the fence, and a lot of East Germans who were on holiday that summer in Hungary went to Austria just without borders and could leave the Iron Curtain. And a few weeks later, they occupied the Western German embassy in Prague. And when the whole Eastern Europe started to unravel and more borders opened and people got free. And after my studies, I went to Japan for postdoctorate in Kyushu. And this was very exciting. You see our office, and the messy desk is mine in front. And these are some friends of mine. This is Ikami-san and Takayama-san. Ikami-san works for Sony. He was head of Sony in Kyushu. Maybe Rotary in Zurich knows him. I'm not sure. And these are some colleagues of mine and some friends. That time, and even now, I love colorful shirts. And after returning back from Japan, I first worked in Austria, in Villach for Siemens. That is now Infineon in a semiconductor plant as process engineer. And when I left Siemens, I joined Merck in Darmstadt. And I was in research and development. I was a laboratory leader, and we produced chemicals for the semiconductor industry. So basically, Siemens and Merck are interconnected. And in 1999, I was very happily transferred to Singapore. Actually, it was my big wish to go back to Asia. And so I came to Singapore. And this was at the first Christmas in Singapore. Santa Claus and Klaus together before Tangling Mall in December 1999, my first Christmas in Singapore. And my own company, when I started my own company in 2003 in June, I left Merck and started on my own. And these are we do business all over Asia, and these are just some photos of trade shows in Shanghai, in Taiwan, in Japan, and the Water Week in Singapore. Especially I like the shows in Japan and Taiwan because there are so many beautiful girls always coming to the booth and want to take photos. And I like to tell a bit about my hobbies. I like to do outdoor sports. I love diving. And my heart feels very itchy. I really miss the diving now and hope the Corona crisis will be soon over. But like hiking every Sunday through the forest in Singapore. And I also member of Seletar Hash House area. Rotarian Pital also is member of them. And so we do hiking. Sometimes not very legal. You need like the channel now in Bukit Gombak. This was yesterday, but it's always good fun. And in the nature in Singapore are many beautiful things to discover, like this snake or the meat-eating plant, and it's really wonderful, Singapore. And nowadays I see there are much more Singaporean enjoy the forests than maybe before the Corona crisis. And this is a good thing. And one of my very big hobbies, and I'm happy to join Rotary, is our Rotary Club. And I just put 3 photos from 3 trips. One was organized by past President Mark in Guizhou, and I had to drink a lot of Mai Tai. And another one was last year in Yunnan province, and this photo on the bottom was the Bhutan, the Rotary conference in Bhutan. And last, but also most important is the family. And in November 2019, my life got finished. I got married with an age of 55. And this is my lovely wife, Jing. And here you see my mom. And this here is Jing's family when they visited Singapore. Yeah, basically, that's my life. And I can say I'm very happy and content with my life.
Thank you, Dr. Klaus.
Thank you.
And now is the speaker time we are waiting for. And today, as I said earlier, our speaker is James Dauman, MD, RJ Flemming and Company Southeast Asia. And his topic is supporting education and children's welfare in Nepal. May I now call upon Rotarian Andy to introduce our speaker. Rotarian Andy, please.
Thank you, President Dinesh. Fellow Rotarians, good evening. Happy New Year to you all. I need glasses, we're all getting old. This evening, I've been given the honor to present our guest speaker, James Dauman. Now, not only do we share the same nationality, a fellow Brit, but we also share Polish surnames. So Dauman is a Polish name. I'm sure James will speak a little bit about that. A little bit of background on James. He spent the past 21 years in investment banking and private equity sectors across Europe, the Middle East and Southeast Asia. He started his career with UBS, then established a private investment firm called Kima Investments. And in 2019, he joined RJ Flemming and Co., which is the private corporate finance and wealth management boutique owned by the Flemming family to set up and run the Asian business in Singapore. Excuse me. Over the past 10 years, James has undertaken as both advisor and principal a range of equity, debt, and M&A transaction in the Asian energy, infrastructure, food and beverage, and agriculture sectors, with a particular focus on Indonesia, where he lived from 2012 to 2017. James is also the co-founder of the Nepal Initiative, a non-profit organization based in Singapore and Kathmandu that supports education, children's welfare, and the development of sustainable small business in Nepal. James has a master's in engineering, in manufacturing, engineering and management from the University of Durham in the UK. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in welcoming a fellow Brit, Mr. James Dauman.
Thank you, Rotarian Andy. And may I now call upon our speaker, James.
Well, thank you very much. I'll just bring up a few PowerPoint slides. If you just bear with me 2 seconds. Let's see. Okay, that should be working. Somebody shout if it's not. So thank you, Andy, for the kind introduction. Now that you've mentioned my Polish heritage, I suppose I should quickly mention that my father was Polish, and the story I always tell, if anyone's familiar with Belvedere vodka, if you look through the bottle, you have a building which is in an area where Polnos Żorodów is. And my family, so my father's grandfathers, were the owners of that distillery there that today makes Belvedere vodka. Of course, we lost it all in the Second World War, but it's a nice story anyway. But coming back to the topic of tonight, Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you to all of you, to the Rotary Club of Singapore, for the invitation to speak this evening about something that is really very close to my heart. And that is not the RJ Flemming and the business side of my life. It is the welfare and the education of marginalized and vulnerable children in Nepal. And I'm actually feeling very honored that I have a slot on your first meeting of the year. And a year which I think for all of us holds so much hope and so much promise after a very challenging 2020. So I hope in my words tonight I can share some positives on the work that we're doing in Nepal. So, sorry, just by way of introduction, the Nepal Initiative, as mentioned, is a non-profit organization based here in Singapore. We're incorporated in Singapore and we're incorporated in Nepal itself. We set it up formally back in 2018, but really it represents the culmination of around 10 years of charitable work that myself and my co-founders have been doing in Nepal. So this is a long-term project for all of us. And today we act as an umbrella funding organization focused on 4 key areas, which you can see on the slide. The first is child sponsorship. So we have 37 children from remote areas of Nepal that we sponsor to be housed and educated in Kathmandu, a bit like boarding school. And I'll come to that in a bit more detail later. School buildings, so we support the construction of new schools and school buildings, working with partners who do that with us. Emergency relief. Now, this is something that really came into focus last year as the pandemic took hold in Nepal, and we had many requests for just very basic food and medical supplies and other key supplies that people couldn't get hold of, and so we've made that another core part of our endeavors. And finally, the Small Business Initiative ties into what we do with the children, and it's all about encouraging young entrepreneurs to build businesses and to learn business skills so they're prepared for the next stage of their lives after their schooling. Just quickly on our team. So there's myself based in Singapore. You've heard my professional background. My focus these days is very much on impact and sustainability from an investment standpoint when I'm not spending time working on Nepal. My wife, Charlotte, is a teacher, and she spends an awful lot of time working on keeping things going with the charity behind the scenes. Suman is a great guy. He's a young change maker based in Kathmandu. I met him when I was living in Bali about 5 years ago. He was raising money after the earthquake in 2015 in Nepal, and he had a connection in Bali, so he was raising money there, and that moves on to the next face there, which is Paul, who actually traveled out from Bali to Nepal to assist with the relief efforts after the earthquake. And Paul's a very close friend of mine. We used to play football together. He's now in Melbourne. The four of us set this up to be the platform for us to drive our agenda for helping Nepal. So I'm going to take you through each of the initiatives, and I'll start with the child sponsorship. This is the one that is probably the most emotive. It's closest to my heart. I've put a map up there because I think it's useful just for people who aren't familiar with Nepal, and even for those who might be, just to see where the children are from that we're supporting. And it really is very, very remote areas of Nepal. If there was topography here, you could see some of the big mountains, especially up on the northwest side. But these are villages which really, in many cases, have very limited facilities, limited education, and these children really need help, and in some cases are vulnerable to trafficking and other dangers that face them, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. I would note as well, while we have the map up there, that along the southern border, that borders with India, that's where COVID-19 has hit the country hardest, because the border is relatively porous, and there were a lot of Nepalese coming back into the country over the course of last year. And if you look at the COVID cases, they were predominantly along that border and in Kathmandu itself. So on this page, you can see a picture of the kids that we sponsor. And the lighthouse in the middle is the logo of our partner for this child sponsorship. So our model is really to identify partners that we want to work with in Nepal, and to use that partnership to provide the support. So in this case, the Lighthouse Foundation is an incredible organization founded by a gentleman called Raju Sundas 10 years ago. It was founded originally to support children from the Badi community, which are the untouchables of the untouchable caste in Nepal. Yeah, very, very tough lives. The occupation, the profession of choice for the women has historically, sadly, been prostitution. There's an enormous amount of trafficking that occurs from that part of Nepal and from those communities. And so the Lighthouse Foundation, with a number of others, they are focused on rescuing children, both from trafficking itself, but also before they get trafficked, providing them with a safe place to live and to be educated and actually counseled as well, because often they've had very traumatic experiences in Kathmandu. So for us, we have a very, very close relationship with them, and the 37 children that we sponsor are looked after by the Lighthouse Foundation. And I think of it as a boarding school, a very nurturing boarding school. They're in Kathmandu. They're very, very well cared for. They have 3 hostels. They have their own school, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. So these pictures were the end of 2019. This is the last time I've actually been able to travel to Nepal, where we got over there just after Christmas, my wife and I, and were able to give them some Christmas presents. And what was amazing to me was we had only started sponsoring them early in 2019, and the difference in the children over that, say, 6-7 month period was just so noticeable. They were looking healthy, they were happy, they were speaking better English, and it was a really great feeling for us. Most of them, actually all of these kids, went back to their villages last year because of lockdowns and what have you. We're now in the process of bringing them back to Kathmandu, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but that's where our sponsorship program is now. It's getting them back into Kathmandu, getting them back into the system so that they continue with their education. The next initiative is our school building initiative, and this is one that I'm really proud of, because Kids of Kathmandu is a charity based in Nepal and the US. They specialize in building schools. They had built 8 schools, largely rebuilding schools that were damaged by the 2015 earthquake. I was introduced to them in 2019, and I was shown this very nice artist's impression of a school building. To expand an existing school that only was kindergarten to grade 5, but they wanted to add a new building so they could go higher up, grade 6, 7, and 8 as well. And we were able to raise some money to help fund that. We were one of the funding partners, and that culminated in a fundraiser that we held last November, where we raised the final amount of money to complete the school. And what was amazing to see is there's the artist's impression. Next, we had the foundations, which I think hope you can see. Then the walls went up, the interiors were done, and finally, as of 10 days ago, it's nearly finished. And I'd like to spend just a moment on the two people in front of the building there. So Bhushan on the right, Bhushan runs Kids of Kathmandu. He's an amazing individual. Who he's 30 years old, but his experience and his commitment, it makes him seem like he's been working on this for many more years, and he's become a dear friend of mine. Next to him is Shrinkala Katiwada. Shrinkala is a professional architect, but is better known as being Miss Nepal 2018. She is a full-on celebrity in Nepal. Everybody knows her. She and Bhushan attended our charity dinner in Singapore back at the end of 2019. And just to give you some context, she posted on Instagram, and within, I think, 3 or 4 hours had something like 65,000 likes. So for us as a small charity, having someone like her as one of our partners and ambassadors is just an amazing thing. And you can see the picture on the bottom right there. I can guarantee you every one of those children is still talking about that visit of Shrinkala to their school. So it's when we're able to achieve this sort of result, it makes it all worth it. So the next school that I want to just touch on, this is the Lighthouse Foundation, which cares for the kids that I mentioned before. They have a school, an existing school with about a capacity for about 500 children. All of those children are funded through donations. What the Lighthouse wants to do is build a bigger school that accommodate around 1,400 students, and that will enable them to bring fee-paying students in to help subsidize the students who aren't able to pay. And I think it's a great recognition by the Lighthouse Foundation themselves that they can't always rely on donations. They need to move to a model where they have a blend of income themselves from various initiatives. So in this case, they've already got some land. There's a picture of it there. That's being paid for. One donor stepped in and paid a 20-year lease on that in one go. I think an American donor of theirs. And then they've got some pictures there. This is a project that we may or may not do with them. We're still considering it, but I would say on this event with so many of you across various different fields, if there's anyone out there who is involved in the construction of schools or has experience with building schools, we'd love to get your input, because it's all about sharing knowledge for us. It's not all about raising money, but we also look for people who can help with knowledge and expertise. Next, just quickly touch on our emergency relief, which I mentioned. So before COVID, we ran a couple trips where we brought some doctors out to remote villages. You can see in the bottom left there, that's a good friend of mine from Singapore, Sean, who's a doctor at GP here, and another friend of mine in Jakarta, Henson. They both came out and ran basic GP clinics in these remote villages, often once in the dark because the electricity went off. But the commitment of these doctors to come out and just help people who just often don't even see a doctor because they don't have access to it was incredible. There's a picture of me there passing some clothes to one village, head of a village. Down the bottom there is more recent, that was handing out supplies during the pandemic last year, and they're still doing that this year. So these are all things that we've been supporting. Finally, I'll talk a bit about the small businesses. I won't spend too long here, but as I mentioned, we really feel it's important to be developing an ecosystem where the children that we care for have something to do after they're educated. And while they're being educated, once they're a little bit older, they have an opportunity to gain real world work experience. But we also like to support local entrepreneurs. We work with an organization called Utopia. They run accelerators and incubators for urban entrepreneurs in Kathmandu. And one of them is there. Her name's Tara. She set up a small embroidery sewing shop. She makes clothes. And when we needed some bags made, she made these lovely Nepal Initiative bags for us. And that was great to be able to actually support someone building a small business. Separately, this is another one. This is connected to Lighthouse Foundation. Raju, the founder, as I mentioned, he recognizes the need for commercial income. And he set up Badi Enterprises to provide a platform to set up small businesses for the older girls under their care. And they have a series of small businesses. They make jewelry for a buyer in Japan. Here, what you can see is the girls making textile wrapping paper. Obviously not paper, but this is a sustainable replacement for wrapping paper. So this is actually a business that a friend of mine here in Singapore is setting up, and she's doing it with Raju and with these girls. And that, again, it's just amazing what we can facilitate just through our network and through our connections. So those are our initiatives. From a fundraising standpoint, we had actually a very good year last year. We raised around $60,000 just for emergency relief alone, and that was from various different sources, from friends, from family, from my church here. It was obviously a lot of need. I think people, it's very different when you have an isolated event. The earthquake, for example, the whole world could rally round and support Nepal, but in this case, the whole world is affected. So it's been really pleasing that we were able to get people in Singapore to support people who really, really needed help. I mean, Nepal's had a terrible time. I think, as many of you know, it's highly reliant on tourism, which has been shut off. The services sector is 60% of their GDP. So you can see how a country like Nepal could really suffer. From a COVID perspective, it's actually been relatively, if you believe the numbers, it's been relatively okay in terms of the deaths. It's less than 1% of the infections, but it's much more the economic impact that's affected them. So I alluded before, we did a couple of events last year. One, I got a group of my friends and we got our mountain bikes and we started up Pulau Ubin on the mountain biking trails there. And we made our way across Singapore on the PCNs all the way to Mandai. And we rode every mountain bike trail in Mandai and Bukit Timah Nature Reserve and down to Kent Ridge. It was 94 kilometers. It was incredibly challenging and hard, and I could barely stand up afterwards. But we raised over $28,000 just from that. And that was enough for us to send the final installment on the school project that I mentioned earlier. We then had a virtual cocktail evening at the end of November where we had 30 odd households with 5 to 6 people, all dialing in through Zoom. And we had a bartender down in Bali teaching people how to make cocktails with rum and with gin. I should mention that I'm also involved in a small rum business. So that was a nice side thing for me to be able to do. So the focus really for this year is our children. We've sponsored already 23 of them, and they're all, some of them are already back in Kathmandu, some of them are on their way. The cost is Singapore dollars, $125 a month, and we're all set up on our website if anyone's interested to do that, which is interesting because we weren't until recently. So people would ask me how to sponsor, and it was all very manual and complicated, but we've now streamlined that. And I just want to finish with some words from people who aren't me, but actually from some of the girls that we sponsor. And I received this maybe 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. So the timing was perfect. So I'm just going to play a very short video clip for you. And then let's do that.
My name is Lina. I'm 13 years old. I study in class 4 and thank you for the testimony. Hi, my name is Dauman. Thank you for the Christmas gift. Thank you for the Christmas gift. Thank you for the we are grateful. Thank you.
So there you have it. The obligatory spelling error on the final at the end. It's not uncommon when things come from Nepal, but I think I can all agree it's amazing to see the children really looking happy. Those are some of the kids who are already back in Kathmandu. Aishka, who is the little girl, she shares a birthday with me, so I sponsor her, and I'm so happy to see her back there looking happy, and it was great that we could get her back for Christmas. So look, I put my contact details here. I'm sure they can be circulated. Any questions now, I'm happy to answer. I'm not sure how the format will work over Zoom. But and we'd love to talk to anyone, whether it be for donations or expertise or just interested in partnership or anything at all. We're very open and we love partners.
Thank you. Thank you, James Dauman. Thank you for your very focused presentation on education. We could see some smiling faces. And now I would like to open it to the floor for questions and answer session. I would like to call upon Rotarian Vineet to conduct the Q&A. Vineet, please.
Thanks, President Dinesh. So that was an amazing session, James. I mean, that was really fantastic. I mean, the video really capped it all really well. We're open for questions. So guys, you can either just put it in the chat or just, you don't have to type out the question, just mention if you have a question and we'll call on you to ask a question. To get it started, James, a quick question from my side. You mentioned that the kids had gone back home during COVID. Are they all coming back? Is there any difficulty in getting them back into Kathmandu? You're on mute still.
Sorry. Yes, so they're all gradually coming back. So if I talk about the ones that we sponsor, specifically the 37, what we've agreed is we won't bring them back until we have sponsors for them, because the last thing we want to do is bring them back and then they can stay for a month or two and then we say, well, look, we haven't got enough money to carry on. So once we have 12-month sponsorship lined up, then we're bringing them back. So 23 of them now have that secured and committed. So now we're just working on the remaining 14, and we probably have 4 or 5 that will be sponsored within the coming week. We've just got people figuring it out.
All right, thank you. And we have a first question from Lina Wong. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, great sharing. Thank you, James. I'm Lina. I'm from a Rotary Club of Shanghai International, and I would like to ask is how do you select the students to be in that school? What is the evaluation and the qualification that you're looking for?
So it's a great question, and it comes down to our partnerships. Actually, I work personally. I have done some work outside the charity with a church organization in Nepal that runs its own children's home for children that it works with in remote areas. And in this case, they approached me and they said, look, James, we have way too much demand. We can't fit them. And these children really, really need support. So we evaluated the children on, just to check that there was nothing. I should say that one thing you have to be very careful of is it's not sort of fake orphans who are just being stolen from their families, which has been an issue in Nepal historically. But the way we've done this through very trusted partners, it was self-selecting in a way. So it's very hard. I think it's so hard to choose. I'd love to help them all, right? I'd love to help every child in need, but in this case, we had a very specific request from one of our other partners, and we were able to support that.
Thank you, James.
Can I continue with the second one?
Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. So is there any discrepancy for those people, for those students that, you know, they came from like a Gambong, a village, and then they went to this capital of the country, and they've been there for quite some time and learned something, and they will be back to their own village. So any things that can, you know, we have to look very carefully how they can go back to their own home and then bring what they have learned in the Kathmandu to their own village, or how they can adjust themselves, you know, from a big city back to the village.
Yeah, again, another great question, and I think we see a few paths that the children take, and what's great with Lighthouse Foundation is we can see over 10 years how some of these children have done exactly what you described, and some of them, one of them in particular, had a scholarship to study at university in Miami, full scholarship, so she's pursuing higher education. Another couple of the girls are going back to their villages, and they're going in to take leadership roles in their villages. They're bringing back the experience that they've learned in Kathmandu with the Lighthouse Foundation to support their communities. And I think Lighthouse has a big focus on enabling that and providing them with the skills to go back. And also there's a big educational element to it as well, particularly in Western Nepal with the Badi communities, you know, educating people about the dangers of child trafficking and why it's not good to sell your children, etc. So I think it's absolutely something that we're conscious of, and that Lighthouse are conscious of, is providing them with skills to be integrated back into their villages. You know, they don't have to take leadership roles. Some prefer just to go back and be traditional farmers or whatever it might be that they would have done in their villages, but they bring with them a confidence and an education and a network that they didn't have before.
Great, thank you so much. I certainly will have a lot more questions, but I will stay in touch with you,
yes,
like privately, so I don't want to take up too much of this time.
Do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. Do we have any more questions?
Hi.
Yes,
this is Omkar Shrestha. Can I?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. James, what level of that you are referring to these 37 children? Since you mentioned scholarship going to Florida or going back and doing some, you know, looks like it's what, a graduate level training or what?
So that the one I mentioned in Florida, she's not one of ours. She's part of the Lighthouse Foundation, who's gone through their program. Our children, the youngest was on the video, Aishka, who's just turned 6, and it goes up to 14 is the oldest at the moment.
And one last question, please. You know, some of the places you mentioned, you showed up in the map, particularly the Northwest.
Yeah.
See, I'm from Nepal myself.
Ah. Actually, I read the surname. I see.
James, no, you are doing a great job. And it's, but I don't know, the comfort of Singapore may not enable us to even imagine the difficulties of those places, the inaccessibility of those places, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you have been to some of those places and in trying to identify some of these, what are their needs, you know, what are their, the real conditions, I wonder.
Yeah, so the answer to that is last year, my plan was to go up to Northwest Nepal and visit Mugu and Humla and all these places. It's as you know, it's not a short journey. It's a fairly big undertaking, but we absolutely have plans to do that. We've spoken to a lot of people who have been there. Our partners have all been there, and I have as good an understanding, I think, as someone who hasn't been there of what it's like. I have been to remote areas, you know, in Makwanpur, which is very different geography, but we have been trekking up there to some villages that are really, you know, in the middle of nowhere and really need support. And I've done some tourist trekking, but that doesn't really show you what you're describing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We have the next question from PP Lipke. Please go ahead.
Hi. I was particularly interested in the description of the school building projects that you mentioned. You see, as a Rotary Club and as many Rotary clubs, we have limitations in helping in that we cannot help build the schools, rebuild schools, but we are able to gain funds to fund the equipping and running of the schools. So how do you see that's coming in some of your projects or in some of the projects that we might be interested? I mean, we particularly have interest in the Dulikil area where there have been quite a lot of schools broken down by the earthquake and still in the rebuilding stage.
Yeah, so I think that, as you say, there's the two phases. There's actually building the school, and then there's what do you do with it afterwards. And I think there's been actually quite a lot of examples where well-meaning donors have gone and built schools, but then they don't get used properly, or the village, a year later converts it into a house or something. I myself have experience of that. I built a library, very first project that is now a guest house. So I think it's very important that we do look at the running of these schools, and it depends. So the school that I showed, the first school that we're just completing, that one will be handed over to the local government, and that will be a government school, government-run school. So it will, we will be providing all of the computers and the lab equipment and everything that it needs to function, but it will be run by the government. And in fact, the existing school is run by the local government. The second school I showed you, though, is a private school, and will absolutely need support on an ongoing basis. And there's many ways in which that can be done, whether it's equipment, whether it's teacher training, whether it's maintenance and various things. So I think that there's the great thing about the people we work with is we almost have a menu. If I'm given the criteria of what a sponsor, a donor can do and would like to do, then I can usually find something that's appropriate.
We need last question, please.
All right. We don't have any more in queue, but if we have anyone else, one last question.
I have Vinit. I am not
Mukan.
able to switch on my camera because some driver issues. I wanted to know, James was talking about some skill-based training to the children's there. What are the kinds of skill-based training is allowed in that area?
So it's one of my favorite questions, because I'm always trying to convince my friends to come out to Nepal with me. I think it can take the form of mentorship in any walk of life, right? To more formal structures. And we do have relationships with a couple of ed tech companies which offer financial literacy, which offer other skill learning, online learning. But for me, the mentorship thing is where I think we can add the most value. So if I look at the 37 children, I ask them all, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there's 5 answers for, doctor, soldier, teacher, policeman, or pilot, right? Okay, so this is all they know. Right? They have no exposure to what else is really available out there that we almost take for granted, and that we see so many things and we have exposure to. So, if anyone from any walk of life can even spend half an hour talking to the kids about what they do, it just opens their eyes to different possibilities. And then from there, we can help them connect with possible mentors within Nepal and outside Nepal to develop skills if they take an interest in a particular area.
Thank you, James.
Sure. Thank you, James.
Thank you, and thank you, Vinit. May I now call upon Dr. Omkar to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, President Ganesh. James Dauman. Oh, wow, that was a very powerful presentation, I thought. And I'm sure we all enjoyed so very much, particularly for me coming from Nepal. I had that special feeling being there and listening to you, all your good activities, particularly in education sector. While I was listening to you, I was reminded of one Chinese saying, which says, if you are planning for 1 year, plant rice. If you are planning for 10 years, plant trees. If you are planning for generations, invest in educations. And that's exactly what you are doing. You see, the moment you said 37 children, what came to my mind was suddenly the dreams and aspirations of those 37 children who couldn't think beyond being soldiers and those limited 5 areas that you mentioned. Imagine the dimension of their thinking as we give them help, all kind of help that you are doing, the sponsorship or the mentorship, whatever. So these are, the social rate of return that you are getting of this social work is beyond quantifications, the level of satisfaction. At the time of this pandemic, the poor, the rich, the vulnerable, the children, and here there is someone who's trying to go reach out to them, and that's a very preciously, delightful and big contribution to the country. So I guess, Mr. President, I think we owe James Dauman double vote of thanks. One on behalf of Nepal for his fantastic work there. Like I said, the level of gratitude you can't imagine for those people. And the second vote of thanks is on behalf of the Rotary Club of Singapore for accepting our invitations and enlightening us with your video presentation and with your powerful presentation. In that context, I would like to invite all our Rotarian fellows to give our hand in appreciation of James Dauman.
Please unmute yourself and give a round of applause to our speaker.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Great job.
Thank you,
Great
James.
job.
Thank you, Dr. Omkar.
Thanks, James.
And now, the next week. Hello, yeah. Fellow Rotarians and guests. Next week, our speaker is Miss Nelly Wartoft, and she's the CEO of Tiger Hall. And the topic will be lifelong learning, what it means today. I think it's another interesting topic, and please do join next week. And I think we had a very, I feel very exciting meeting and very well attended. And I'm sure that everybody was very active in asking questions to the work being done in Nepal. And I think with that, I once again thank you everyone for attending this meeting. And I once again wish you very happy, prosperous, wonderful new year ahead. And now, I think I will close the meeting and the fellowship will continue for another 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.